Memorial Weekend with rain. Is it amazing? Hail, tornadoes. I mean, this is an amazing time. And you're here. How great is that? You know, the reading this morning is a condensed version of this issue of Imprimis newsletter. 4.5 million people get these every other month, and they're free if you're interested. And it always has a poignant talk from some important person in the world. It's really wonderful. But I thought putting those flags in Arlington Cemetery just kind of touched my heart. So, Gateways to Refuge. It's all about the book entitled True Refuge by Tara Brock, and she is in the bookstore. By definition, a refuge is a shelter or place that provides protection from danger or distress. But we also find refuge in our beliefs, in our awareness, and in our community. And big Memorial Weekend in this community of friends, I wanted to take a moment to recognize all of you who have served in the military. If you would stand, please. Thank you so, so much. Now, I know during the weekend you'll likely be honoring or thinking about or praying about those men and women that you served with, but also those that lost their lives during their service. That's what Memorial Weekend is all about, honoring those. As a chaplain, I have frequently met with someone who's retired or been in the military, and they love to tell their stories. Especially in a hospital, it's a good time to contemplate the past. And they usually share the medals that they got that are now in some drawer in a chest of drawers in the bedroom. But it's an important time for all people who served. You never really forget it. And you especially can find refuge today in the more broader and deeper understanding of what makes peace and what makes war. What it feels like to be at peace and what it feels like to be at war. But you can also find refuge in the present moment, like right here, right now, where you're totally safe. And there's love flowing around this room. And maybe take time to share stories with each other after the service, because there's a bond there that's never broken when you've been in the military. For years, I've carried around some books about experiences during the war because my dad was in the Army. He worked for the Air Force after he got out, and so did my mother. So we were pretty much attuned to military life. And I thought, well, maybe I can find something that would give you a message today to help you find faith and courage when you're having a hard time. And the book, I pulled out a whole stack of books. And the one that I love the most is The 100 Days of Lieutenant Mac Horton. An incredible, incredible book. And I have to be honest with you, I took this from the library of the Naval Air Station on Whidbey Island when my husband was there, and I couldn't give it back. I think about it every now and then, and I go, I can't give it back. So there you are. There's your minister for you. It was 1943, and Lieutenant Mac Horton was in the British Army, and they were in war with the Japanese, and he was assigned to lead a division into enemy territory and to be a decoy. At one point, they were 300 miles behind enemy lines. It was in Japanese-occupied Burma, and all of a sudden they were overrun by the Japanese. And he was badly injured, his leg was badly injured. And in the British military, if you were injured and could not walk on your own, you were to be left behind, period. And he was. It's a very sad chapter in the book when you read his understanding that this is what was happening. He as the leader, was going to be left behind. So it's a pretty harrowing story. You're 300 miles behind enemy lines in Burma, which is a rainforest-type ecosystem. So for the next 100 days, he crawled and limped his way over 300 miles. 3 miles a day. That's an amazing thing. But at some point, he knew he was being watched over. And in the chapter called Miracle in the Swamp, I was just riveted. Even yesterday when I was reading it again, he found himself in this swamp. It stretched all around him like a giant web, spider web. And the mud was so thick that when he walked, it sucked his boots off. So he had no shoes. He was able to kill a python. How do you do that? I don't know. But he did, and he was able to make a little fire and cook the meat. And he cooked it up, and he stuck it in every pocket, and it kept him going through that incredible journey. He wrote that it tasted like chicken. I mean, doesn't everything taste like chicken? And some days he said it tasted like veal, but at least it kept him going. But here's a description of what he was involved in. Everything smelt evil, and the air was enveloped in a sullen mist. No bird sang, nor did any animal move. Can you kind of feel that? One day he was in delirium and he fell down a mud bank and passed out. And when he woke up, he saw a green lizard and he thought, food. So he got out his knife and the lizard scampered away and fell into a depression in the mud. Well, he crawled over to that depression and of course the lizard was gone, but he couldn't believe his eyes to what he was seeing. The lizard was gone and the depression was a fresh imprint of a British military boot. He ran his fingers around the boot and he could feel where the 13 studs were impressed in the mud. In utter, complete faith, he started following the boot prints. They eventually led him out of the swamp into a forest. And at the edge of the forest, he looked back at the trail that had been his salvation, and he was overwhelmed. All he could see was his own naked footprints. He backtracked over 100 yards. No boot prints, just his naked footprints. So he went forward again and he caught up with the boot prints. He followed them into a forest, into a jungle, up and down cliffs, and he was had tremendous gratitude for this guide who was laying down these fresh boot prints. So he would yell out, "Identify yourself. Please identify yourself." And there was never an answer. But he knew he had a companion, and for that reason he had no fear. He found refuge in those boot prints that eventually led him to safety. So here today in 2019, not 1943, you have the refuge of this center. Our spiritual practices, our philosophy. And anytime, anywhere, no matter what is happening to you, you can reach that refuge. Whether it's an earth-shaking experience or just an inconvenience, you can tap into these principles, into this teaching, into this community of friends, and find refuge. In the ancient spiritual text, there are 3 archetypal gateways that you might recognize again and again, and they're captured in 3 words: truth, love, and awareness. On the Buddhist path, you find refuge in the Buddha, the awakened one who is so aware. You find refuge in the Dharma, which is the teaching, the way, the truth. And you find refuge in the Sangha, in the community like this, a spiritual community filled with love. On the Hindu path in Sanskrit, the words are Sat, which means ultimate truth, Chit, which means awareness, and Ananda, which means love. Sat, Chit, Ananda, those 3 important words. In the Christian teaching, it's the Trinity, the Father, all-knowing, the Son, truth, and the Holy Spirit, which is love. So every spiritual teaching offers these refuges refuges, and we find a portal to enter those of awareness, truth, and love. Now, in religious science, we have this beautiful symbol here, and there's some brochures underneath that for you to take. The V, the circle outside, represents God, the oneness of all. And the three sections are the Trinity of being, God, soul, body. And the center is soul, our subconscious mind, our impersonal subconscious mind. And the lower level is our body, forms, everything around us that we see. And so the V represents the descent of God into our soul and into our body and into all of our activities in life. We believe that spirit manifests form in order to express itself, in order to know itself, but it's all always encompassed in the one. So let's look at these three gateways. Let's look at truth, the teachings or scriptures. Often we can learn the truth through meditation, through our ethical behavior, and understanding and studying the teachings. Through meditation, we can experience calmness, we can clear our mind. I always think of meditation as stretching the space between our thoughts, that emptiness, that space. If we can stretch it and stretch it, we can feel calmness by observing our breath in and out and being mindful of what's going on around us. Now, the author of this book on Refuge, Tara, she shared a story about a Superior Court judge who came to her. He was feeling very overwhelmed by all the cases that ran through his courtroom every day and the magnitude of suffering that he saw every day. He came to her saying, I need to find some breathing space. She was a yoga teacher, so she kind of knew what he meant. And she taught him a meditation just focused on his breath, in and out. For a half hour every day, he started watching his breath, in and out, in and out. Well, a few weeks later, he came back to her to say that it worked, but not in the way he expected. He was calmer. That was something that happened. But he found that every person that came into his courtroom, he had a new level of respect for them. Can you imagine how that felt? All of a sudden, the people that have been so taking your breath away, you now have respect for them. But more than that, he tapped into a sense of love for all these people that he had never experienced before. That's the gateway of truth. The next portal into that gateway of truth is ethical behavior, living our lives aligned with the truth. It's how we treat other people and the energy behind our words and our habits. Because every moment, for those of you who haven't been here very long, every moment, our thoughts and words, we're planting seeds into subconscious mind. We're planting seeds with our thoughts and words and beliefs that will become our experience. The next portal invites us to accept what is real, to face reality. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but I have. Holding on so tight to something, not wanting to let go, because if I let go, I'm going to feel insecure and I might experience some pain. Well, that was my first marriage. I got married at 19, and my husband was in the military. That's kind of a funny thing. But our marriage lasted 21 years. It was really a great, great time. But the last 10 years were not great at all. But we were hanging on. We were having a secure relationship, and we were afraid to let go. Well, at the time we lived in Puget Sound, and I had a very high-paying job, and I had to travel a lot. And he decided he'd just stay home, take care of things, have some fun. So he started having friends over every afternoon, and all of a sudden it included my girlfriend. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not working my, off to come home and find you guys drinking beer, having fun. So I got real. Decided to quit my job. Luckily, I landed a job here in Anderson at the power plant, and things started to work out. But it took 10 years for me to grip reality, to really see what was going on. And you know, my ex and my ex-girlfriend, they're still together. They've got a big RV. They travel all over the country. They're very, very happy. And I found my husband, my soulmate here, Paul. And we've already had 26 years of wonderful, precious living together and being together. So it all worked out. But boy, what I had to learn along the way was amazing. Interesting how stubborn we can be sometimes. The next gateway to refuge is love. We find love here in this community. You know, sometimes the number of people standing at the door talking is greater than the number of people sitting down. And it's love. It's love. We love seeing one another. We love talking with one another. We love the stories of Cynthia and how her health is just coming back gangbusters, and we're so thrilled about that. We're thrilled about Storm and his new leg. I mean, how great is that? It's just wonderful. So we do have a sense of love that helps awaken in us a new level of spirituality. But then we all have family of one kind or another, and sometimes that can be challenging to be loving. Holidays represent, sometimes we gather together with some cousins we may not appreciate as much, or maybe a wedding, or maybe a memorial. And so the kind of love within the family is another unique kind of love. But here in this spiritual community, it's not always love. Sit in the office for a week. But we're all individuals on our own spiritual path. And it's an upward spiral spiritual path. We are evolving, evolving, evolving. And you may be here, but the person sitting next to you may be here or here. You don't know. We're all traveling this evolutionary path at our own rate. The most important thing is that you're here. You are here learning how to be love. You are here learning how loving kindness changes your whole work environment or your home environment. You're learning how this spiritual teaching is being proven out by science to be so powerful in our words and our thoughts and our feelings. The next gateway is awareness. When Buddhists take refuge in the Buddha, that name means the one who is awake. And they draw on the inspiration of the Buddha, who was just a man who had a lot of stress and difficulty in his life, but once he realized his oneness, it changed, obviously, the whole world. His awakening gives us confidence that that potential lies within each one of us. Each one of us. So one way to enter the gateway of awareness is through a very simple guided meditation, self-guided meditation of the presence of the Divine Mother. It's directing our attention inward where we feel this tender motherly love, this inner refuge of the sacred presence of the Divine Mother. And it brings to us a true awareness of our true homecoming, being one with the Mother. So this center offers a lot of opportunities for you to find refuge at any time you're looking for a place that is safe and secure. We have our men's group and our women's group. We have the Buddhists who use our pavilion on Wednesday evenings. You're more than happy to partake in that. And Reverend Pam has meditation on Thursdays. We have, I think, up to 8 summer classes that are coming up very soon. So you'll see that in the newsletter. And you can trust that any of those refuges that you enter, you will find peace and you will find love and you'll find greater meaning in your life. So the author of True Refuge suggests that at the beginning and ending of every day, we should pause and inquire, what matters most to me? What in the world matters the most? What is my heart really longing for? And then listen intently. Let that answer open your heart and help you enter the right gateway to find refuge and expand what your heart is really looking for. Now, I usually end with a prayer that I just kind of do on the fly, but after reading this talk last night, Paul wrote a prayer, and I said, "Can I use it?" And he said, "Sure." Today, let's take refuge in just being here, all sisters and brothers created by the One. Here on Memorial Weekend to honor all of those who served and died for our freedom. We share in our losses and we support one another in our challenges. We are grateful to be able to celebrate all of the wonderful things that we make happen together in this center. Thank you, Spirit, for our greater awareness today, for this teaching, and for this community of love. And so it is, from Paul. Thank you.